Saw on Twitter today a tweet from Chandy Jose. Chandy Jose. Great job, man, recording this clip. Apparently, there was a little segment on the Dallas News where they talked about Vic. And they, specifically, is some interviewer interviewing none other than Sharon Grigsby of Dallas Morning News, or whatever her title is, right? Sharon, you know who she is. Hopefully, she's already written a little write-up about Vic. And she's done a follow-up recently as of the hearing. Some people say it's pretty biased. But you know what? At least there's some people that read the article. Because who really listens to the news these days? Especially mainstream news, especially an article on a Saturday. Probably most of the views to that article comes from people who support Vic. Because, you know, the other side doesn't do research. Who's really reading that article? Not many people. And the ones that are probably are standing with Vic. So Sharon, you should be really thankful that we're talking about your article today. Even though it's not in the best light. You see, on the news, apparently this interviewer was asking Sharon some questions. I'm not going to play the clip because guess what? If I did, and even if I was totally in fair use, company might try to abuse DMCA and come after me. And while I would, you know, of course, take them to court over it like we've almost done in the past with other companies. But luckily they receded. Didn't want to go to court, you know, no surprise. Anyways, to avoid all that regardless, I'm just going to read a little transcription I made. Now, disclaimer, of course, my transcribing isn't great. This is not 100% accurate. I'm not going to pretend like it is. This is my best job writing down what was said in that clip, and I'll leave the clip in the description as well if you want to watch it yourself. But let me go through this and break it down with you guys. So, the interviewer says, is suing two of his Dallas area colleagues. Whatever she said before that did get cut off in the clip that I was sent. So, interviewer is suing two of his Dallas area colleagues. Sharon Grigsby from the Dallas Morning News joins us live with more. Sharon, this is an interesting story, so tell us more from the latest in this saga. And here comes Sharon. She says something along the lines of, yes, indeed it is, Laura. I guess the interviewer's named Laura. There we go. Yes, indeed it is, Laura. The most recent developments, first of all, are that anime fans worldwide continue to rush to take a side, and they are all brawling on social media. It's really curious that all these significant players in this suit are from the North Texas area. I'm glad you point that out, Sharon, because we kind of agree. Almost like some weird civil conspiracy or something, but seems like Mr. Judge Chubb didn't really agree with that part. But it is strange. I'm glad even you acknowledge that. Thank you, Sharon. She continues. So they gathered Friday in a courtroom in Tarrant County to talk about it in front of the judge, whether or not this defamation suit could go forward. I mean, you could just say TCPA hearing, but for sure, right on. But as I described in my column, it turned into an unholy mess. Because of the defendant's side, you have these very buttoned down by the book, very crisp lawyers. But on the plaintiff's side, Vic Mignogna, that's pretty much how she says it too. Mignogna. You know, if you're really trying to show journalistic integrity, completely destroying the last name of one of the most important people that you could be covering in a story like that, not a great look. But as I'm sitting here, I'm wondering if there's something more nefarious behind the scenes. She mispronounced his name like that twice in the clip that I recall. Mignogna. And the way she said it, Mignogna, like she was really sounding it out. It got me a bit curious. I'm wondering, these people do shady things like this, guys. They have to. Because truth and justice, public opinion, the majority is not on their side. They have to resort to shady things like this. Or, you know what? If they weren't doing the wrong thing, they wouldn't have to do shady things in general. For example, Kick Vic. If Kick Vic really was in the right, surely they would have some evidence 8 months later. I mean, somehow, we're even getting evidence that disproves the claims that they are coming forward with, to an extent. How are we getting evidence that disproves their claims on completely random things that have just come up over these 7-8 months? For example, that panel with Mary Lishma. There's actually photos of it. Wasn't good for the Kick Vic guy who was saying that Vic had to be seated elsewhere when the picture showed a whole different picture. Point is, we're yet to see any evidence. If Kick Vic was in the right, I think they'd have at least some. I think they'd have at least something, right? Yet to see that. So what I'm getting at is the way she says the name, Mignogna, It makes me wonder if she's phonetically saying it that way so people look Vic up. People will look Vic up. Maybe they'll see some slanderous articles, because most of the articles out there on Vic, using search engine optimization, SEO, you can skew the narrative by having these very biased articles come out. And then when someone searches Vic Mignogna, they see all these really bad articles. Now, luckily, on YouTube, there is actually some integrity that people have. I'm not saying we're not entirely biased in some manner, but my gosh, if you compare the work of the mainstream media and outlets like what Grigsby works on compared to what we're doing, you can see a reason why they are so fearful of us. They don't. Their industry is going down, you know, and they want us to be taken out. They're fearful of us. They know people trust us more because we aren't getting paid by some corporate overlord. I get paid by you guys. If you guys like my content, if you share the content, I'll get more views. I'll get better ad revenue. So like I get the roof over my head because people are coming to watch my content. It's not like I can just do whatever I want and I get a check sent from salary or something from, you know, my the CEO of the news site or whatever. So I just go with the narrative because he's paying my check. No. Certainly that's not the case. I'm not getting paid off by anyone. I mean, if I'm not doing a good job, you guys will call me out on it and stop sharing the videos, stop watching the videos and stuff. It keeps me honest, and that's my goal. My goal, one of my goals, is to keep these companies honest. Keep them accountable for their actions and the actions of those who represent their company. Pretty straightforward. Anyways, this is a little side rant about the Mignogna thing, because it really does seem nefarious to me, man. Like, she went out of her way to say it so phonetically like that, when the other words she was saying, it wasn't that phonetical, if that's even a word. I don't know. I'm never marketing myself as the grammar guy. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you guys, I'm not good at grammar, not good at spelling, and sometimes I'm not even good at talking. I will say weird things sometimes. So, hey, I'm not the grammar guy, all right? Anyways, yeah, Mignogna, interesting. Those are some of my theories about that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Continuing. She says, the VA who brought this case to begin... Well, let me start from above that, actually. But as I described in my column, it turned into an unholy mess because of the defendant's side. You have these very buttoned down, by the book, very crisp lawyers. So she's saying, you know, Funimation, Monica, Ron, Marky, they had very crisp, professional attorneys. And then she writes, but on the plaintiff side, Vic Mignogna, the voice actor who brought this case to begin with, you have an attorney who frankly was very disorganized in the minds of those of us in the courtroom. So biased. She paints Ty out as like this disheveled, disorganized guy, puts the other attorneys up in a very good light, even though multiple sources have said that Lemoyne really didn't do a great job. So there's that. And then she even says, you know, she says that Ty was very disorganized in the minds of those of us in the courtroom. That's literally hearsay. How are you going to tell us what everyone in the courtroom was thinking? You really going to do that? You think that's a good idea? X to doubt on that one. And then finally, she seems to not even realize that Vic had more than one attorney there. There was also Mr. Shu. If I said his name right, hopefully I did. HSU. Mr. Shu. And Mr. Beard. Sharon, you were there. I wasn't even there. How did you miss that? And you're supposed to be the professional? Wow. She continues. He all but tried the last nerve of the judge, and the whole thing just looked like something I'd never seen in a courtroom before. Says that about Ty. The interviewer, I guess Laura, then says, and for many of us, something we'd never heard of specifically from this genre. So you mentioned that they were actually in court on Friday. Did the judge have a ruling? Now, I'm sorry. I don't know much about Laura, the interviewer, but this stuck out weird to me. And for many of us, something we'd never heard of, especially from this genre. What does that mean? From this genre? What? You trying to say like anime? Or who made you an expert in anime all of a sudden? Like, what do you mean? For many of us, something we'd never heard of, especially from this genre. Really don't know what she meant by that. Maybe she wasn't talking about anime. I have no idea what she was talking about, though. It sounds like she was trying to sound like an expert or something, but oh my gosh, that was a weird comment. She continues. So you mentioned that they were actually in court on Friday. Did the judge have a ruling? And then Sharon Grigsby takes over, says, finally he did. And again, paraphrased. He dismissed all the cases, all the claims against one of the defendants, and he dismissed many of the claims against the other defendants, which includes Funimation, the company that let Mr. Mignogna, she does it again there, Mr. Mignogna, so weird, the company that let Mr. Mignogna go in the wake of these accusations. He did not rule on several key claims, however, so there are 3 defendants who are very much on the hook. It was hard to tell if whether he was just worn out after a hearing that had gone on even an hour longer than the 2 hours allotted, or whether he had additional reading to do on what was a very long legal brief that was presented at the last minute by the plaintiff. Again, at the very end, putting Vic, the plaintiff side, in a very bad light. Now, I will, before we tackle that, I will at least give her some credit for making the statement, again, paraphrased, but this one, he did not rule on several key claims, however, so there are 3 defendants who are very much on the hook. I will give her credit for that. I read her write-up as well, and she did mention something with very similar wording in the article, where she said, like, there are still some hefty charges on Monica, Ron, and Funimation, and that they're still on the hook for those potentially. I'll give her credit on that. That's a good look. I mean, that's true. The defamation claims are still quite serious, and there is still civil conspiracy on the table for Rial and Toy, if I recall properly. So Sharon, I'll give you credit on that one. However, if you watch these videos, you can tell I'm always a skeptic. Excuse me for being skeptical about you presenting that out of sheer integrity, because why would you have only one segment that actually shows integrity, in my opinion, and the rest of it doesn't really? So here's what I'm thinking. Maybe you're not just being honest. Maybe you're covering your tracks. Maybe you're thinking, if this doesn't get dismissed and maybe down the road, Monica and Ron, maybe Funimation, or at least one of the 3. If one of them gets hit with defamation, you don't want to be wrong. You don't want to be wrong entirely. So maybe that's why you add it there. Maybe, you'll make the litigation look really bad for the plaintiff, but you'll add that caveat. There's still some very serious things on the table, kind of. They're still on the hook. So if it doesn't get dismissed and it goes bad for them, at least you weren't all wrong. Maybe that's what you're getting at. But I don't know. I don't know. So my friends, that's it. I mean, the last thing she said as well, I did want to tackle that a little bit, was it was hard to tell if whether he was just worn out after a hearing that had gone even an hour longer than the 2 hours allotted, or whether he had additional reading to do on what was a very long legal brief that was presented at the last minute by the plaintiff. I mean, listen, on one hand, it was last minute submitted, but you could mention the electronic errors, or you could at least mention that the defendant side have also had extremely long legal briefs. I mean, that's, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if part of the reason why Thijs was so long was because he had so much to respond to. Now, that said, I'm not giving Ty a full pass on that. I mean, he himself admitted it was sloppy, so let's go with that. It was a sloppy filing. Ty has admitted that himself. So, fair enough. But the point is, man, we've seen from the defendants as well, hundreds of pages of things filed, very sloppy filings as well. Sometimes the exhibits don't even match the numbers. I think that was from Lemoyne's end, if I recall. That would kind of make sense too. So Sharon, I mean, if you really want to seem unbiased, you had a good opportunity. This is the big mistake. You had a good opportunity to be unbiased and still paint the side that I'm assuming you want to win in a good light, because, well, the hearing was better for them, debatably. I'm going to say debatably, but the hearing went better for the defense than the offense, the plaintiff. You could have covered this story entirely unbiased, in my opinion, and still painted one side out favorably. But you didn't really do that, again, in my opinion. So, I don't know. It just seems like a miss. It's unfortunate that this is the way mainstream news likes to run their business, apparently. But it is what it is. And again, that's why people are starting to no longer rely on such sources and come to alternate forms of news, and so on and so on. My friends, we're doing a very special promotion for the Vic Mignogna GoFundMe. If you're not aware, let me fill you in. We are donating all proceeds on sales for the I Stand With Vic shirt and the mug, which come in different colors, by the way. If you purchase one of these, all profits will be donated to the Vic Mignogna GoFundMe next Monday. The promotion ends on Sunday, and I'll be making the donation on Monday. That way, Sunday, we can have until the very last second for potential purchases to make that donation as big as possible. So that will be going on until Sunday, so plenty of time left. But again, the link is in the description. You get a mug or a shirt, or if you want to get both, or whatever you want to get, all that will go to the GoFundMe. So keep that in mind, and thank you for your support. And some shout outs for the wonderfully cultured people who promoted yesterday's video on certain websites in a certain litigation. Shouts out to Spin Master Rockta, Dusk Wolf, The Lancaster Kid, Brianna Jewel Reed, Random Fandom, Cameron Strife, and that's it for that one. Hey, thank you very much, my friends. Appreciate it. Links below, all that jazz, Discord, etc., etc. You know how it is, and I'll see you next time.